Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Excalibur Data Systems Roundtable Tech Talk. I'm joined today by Manish Sharma from Rezolve.ai. Manish, glad to have you back.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's always fun when we get together. We talk about all this crazy, stuff that you guys are doing over there at Rezolve. It's like the mad scientist lab. And they have their very own mad scientist. If you're at one of the HDI shows, go over and find the Rezolve.ai booth and go ahead and see if you can find see if Josh is there. And if
Yeah,
Josh is there, ask him to put on his lab coat because he is the mad scientist. Um, and Josh will be real thrilled with us sharing this with everyone and coming over. But he'll even mess his hair up for you if it's not already messed up in a mad scientist do. But in all seriousness, you guys are doing some just amazing things there at Rezolve that are driving automations. That's what you and I have been talking a lot about. Why automation? Why now? How is this different than the automation discussion we've been having for the last decade? And the reality is you guys have brought it down and used the term in one of our recent videos, democratizing the automation, right? We've brought it down, and what you guys have really looked at is how do we make it part of the user experience,
yeah,
where it's not something that's special or separate, or a technician has to come in and click the magic button to make it happen, but how can the user be able to do many of the small things they want to do day to day? And we shared some statistics that just chew up time. It's not they need to be done. Nobody's saying, hey, this is time that's wasted. What we're talking about doing is making that time make more sense,
yeah.
taking some of that burden off of the folks that are doing it, giving them back that time to do the 10,000 other things they need to do, and really driving a very, very high value, very, very high ROI. But I think even more important than that is we're driving a very nice customer experience. And you kind of told the story about, that user that receives their new laptop and it's 8 o'clock at night, right? For a lot of organizations, there may be a limited personnel
Support,
to be able to support
definitely.
them.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think
and
there's a fundamental shift happening towards, if anything, the pandemic told us was that, everyone suddenly said, oh, we need to really value the employee's time, right? It's getting even, and after that, the inflation, unfortunately, is driving that point even home even more solidly, saying, hey, whatever employees you got to make sure that they're productive, that they're not wasting their time doing things which are non-productive, right? Like you don't want them searching for information for 30% of their day. That's a waste of everyone's time. It's really like taking a bunch of money and throwing it down the drain, right? You don't want them frustrated with, I almost call some of these hygiene issues, right? Like,
Mhm.
basic things that need to work and they're not working. And if they don't work, then people get frustrated. And this frustration, I like to call it enterprise friction. So basically, you are just unnecessarily creating a friction in an enterprise. This 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 enterprise could work more efficiently, but now you have introduced enterprise friction, and guess what, now it's going to be 10% less efficient or 20% less efficient. So the challenge for people like us, the service desk people, the people who are supporting the employees, is how do I reduce this enterprise friction? And clearly one way to do is to give more power to the end user and say, hey, this is not your old times, self-service push where we were forcing people to say, go to this folder and then click here and then click there and then click there, and then maybe you'll reach a place where you might be able to help. And all of us kind of gave up very early in that game. This has to be much more simpler. This has to be right where people are, which is Microsoft Teams. And this should be very intuitive so they don't have to think too much about it, right? And they can do even complicated tasks very, very easily. So this is the phase of automation that we are going. And if you would like, I'd love to show today.
Oh,
Um,
I think everybody's waiting with bated breath. We want to see this. I was thinking about, as you talked about enterprise friction, and those basic things. I think about like someone needing to be added to email distribution list,
Yep.
and the typical steps they go through. They put the request in,
Yep.
right? And that request is solved in today, tomorrow,
Due
next
course.
Thursday.
Absolutely.
It's done at some point, and somebody has to go in and do that. And it's just, I just need to be on that distribution list because I'm part of that team and I got left out.
Absolutely.
Making it super simple for me to go say, hey, can you add me to this email distribution list?
Exactly. So, I think we are all, these things stop us from doing what we are trying to do, right? We were trying to do something, and when you cannot do that, that's where the problem begins. You start to feel frustrated, and you can't do what you're trying to do, and that's the huge loss for the company. So today what we are going to focus on, if it's okay with you, Michael, I don't want to focus on your traditional chatbot question answers and knowledge management. I think we have covered that in different segment. Today let's focus on the automation, where how things are getting done. What are the different kind of automations? We talked about different kind of automations. Your desktop automation, your task automation, your process automation. Let's see the different examples of that automations, going from simple to more complex, and kind of make sense of how these integrations that we talked about last time are kind of making sense.
So Manish, let's take a look at this stuff.
Perfect. So let's go and look at the bot. The bot is in Teams, as you can imagine.
Mhm.
And, I hope you noticed nice little Excalibur data systems logo here. This is the customization that will be available to all the customers, right? Whoever comes in, they will have the employees will see their own logo, their own branding, all that kind of good stuff, which makes everyone feel a little bit, at home with the product that they're using. Like I said earlier, we are not probably going to go, we have checked these kind of capabilities earlier, like asking a question, opening a ticket, check ticket status, chat with a live person. But rather, we will go to My Skills menu, which is here, where we are going to explore some of the automation that is already built in, excuse me, with this particular, instance, right? So, for example, if I want to order a new software, like we are talking about, it's 11 p.m. at night, you have to do something and you need a new software for that, and maybe that software is available within the company, but you don't know how to get it and how to install it. Excuse me, pardon me. So you don't know how to get it, how to install it. The only thing you can do is to create a ticket for it, and someone will come back to you when they will come back to you. But here is an alternative way of doing it. Let's say I want to request a new software. So all I need to do is to go here, and it will already tell me who's the software for. By the way, if I want to order the software for someone else instead of me, this is all I need to do. It's completely integrated with Active Directory. It picks up people right from here, so it's not a problem. Now, which software do I want to install? So we'll check a software that I don't have, and we'll try to install it real time right now. So these are the different softwares maybe that I can install, Google Chrome or Audacity or what have you. Let's go for Audacity. Just to be sure, let's check if I have Audacity right now as an app. And as you can see, I don't, right? It's not an app that I have currently. It very nicely tells me that there's no approval required for this. So this must be one of those, free softwares or less expensive software that anyone in the company is allowed to, install. And let's say if I say, yeah, I want to go ahead and do it, says, okay, your software install has been started. Check your system in some time and it'll be there. That's it. Can you believe it? This is all it takes to install a software. It takes a couple of minutes to actually install the software, and we can check here as we are talking, but that's about it.
And that's the idea, is that we've kept it super simple, right? So now they see it, they can go on about doing whatever it is they needed that software to be able to do.
Yeah,
Right?
you
It's
don't
that.
have to. And by the way, the tickets will be created in the backend, and it will be told who requested, etc., etc. And by the way, if I was going for a software that needed approval. For example, let's say it needed your approval for me to get that software because it's an expensive software, or maybe it's a software that people in my business divisions are not naturally supposed to have or whatever. I can actually still ask for it, and what the bot will do is bot will go to you and say, "Hey, Michael, Manish is asking for this software. Do you approve or no?" And if you approve it, then the software will be, installed at my app automatically. So I don't need to do. I just need to request it, and pending approval, it will automatically be set up on me. So, for example, if you go now um, here, look, I have Audacity. It was installed. It took me 90 seconds to get the app on my system, and now I can do whatever I want to do. Let's go check a couple of other things here. For example, I want to add someone to a deal, right? So there's a deal, and what I did was I kind of opened a deal here. So here is a deal, a distribution list, James testing, and this distribution list has 4 members in it: Tracy, Manish, UB, Saurabh, 4 members in it, right? If I go here, and let's say if I wanted to add this distribution list, add someone to this distribution list, right? So let's see how that works out. So it says add a member to the distribution list, right? So it says which distribution list. So I can drop down, or I can just stop typing. So I can say James testing. Here you go. Boom. Who do I want to add it to? So let's say I want to add Josh to this, Josh Brand. And do I want to add or remove? So it can add or remove both, right? Let's say I want to add, and that's it. Now, if you had a step built in here where the person uh, who is the owner of the distribution list, that person needs to approve. I think in this case the owner is me, so it's very simple. But if owner was someone else and the bot had to go get an approval to do this, bot can do that as well. But already the API call was made, and the request was made to Microsoft to add it. If we go again, typically Microsoft takes typically 15 seconds to do this. So let's have a look at it. And guess what? Josh is already here. Let's go check next stuff. For example, I want to onboard a new employee, right? The employee onboarding, employee offboarding, typically, things which are pain point. A typical employee onboarding might involve multiple departments, but it also might involve multiple systems. And typically there's a sequence in which you want to get things done. You want to get created this ID first, and you want to then allocate the licenses, and then you want to do something else, right? So there's different kind of things that you that you get done. So for example, if I go here and say onboard a new employee, and let's say I'm onboarding I don't know, John Doe 6. Yes, there's a sequence. And let's say we start on February 7th, and it's in Jersey City. The person comes in, and the department is sales, and reporting manager is, let's say, me, right? And if we continue down this road, here are the different roles within the option. So there can be a sales representative, or let's say it's a SDR, sales representative, right, that I'm hiring. Now, what is the hardware I want to give that person, whether I want to give a computer or a tablet or cell phone or whatever, and what are the softwares I want to provide. And then I'm gonna continue from here. And then I can add a note, right? New note, whatever the new note might be. And boom, it is summarizing everything for me, what I really wanted. And now what it is going to go do it's not just summarizing and creating ticket, although there's a lot of value in that, because what you did was you just filled one side and then it went all over the place to do it. But what it is also doing is it's actually calling those APIs to get things done. So for example, if I go to my Azure right now, I will find there's an email address of john.doe6@rezolve.ai already created, right? So This is not one of those systems which is just creating tickets and assigning tickets and giving it to people. It's actually calling those APIs and saying, okay, this done, this done, this done. Oh, this one I cannot do, so I'll create a ticket for you and assign someone, right? But the things that it can do, it will go ahead and do those things already and get that done. So
Yeah.
this is an
And with the,
example.
I think with that integration list you showed as well, this could have gone out to our HR system too to create those records.
Yeah, typically employee onboarding needs some level of updation to employee system because you are bringing people from applicant tracking system, and now they are graduating to being employees, right? So their payroll need to be set up, their status in the employee in the systems need to be set up. So all these kind of manual tasks, and they need to be stacked in a particular way, right? This needs to be done first, and that needs to be done second. Who is going to navigate all this, right? The traditional systems at best can create tickets and assign it to people, right? But when think of it as a coordinator, right? Virtual coordinator who knows what needs to be done, in what sequence it needs to be done. It already does certain pieces of that, and for the rest of it, it kind of tees it up to the right people in the right sequence.
Craziness. Craziness. We're going to make it too easy, right? But this has been an age-old conversation we've had, working in the IT service management space. Is, hey, we've done X, Y, Z in Workday, and we want to have Workday kick off some things to go do down here.
Yep.
And then those things are going to kick off other things, and it's got to go in a certain order because the AD account needs to be created first before they can be added to, all of those sort of things. You're talking about
Yep.
one place where they can come to and ask that. And then depending upon how we've set it up and what permissions it has and what it's going to do, and because it's talking to the API, it may go out and check Workday and say, well, is this person in here? Oh, they're not.
Yes.
Okay. Do
Yes.
you want me to go and do these things? Or I don't see them in Workday before we can proceed, contact HR or whatever our process is going to dictate. And I think
And
that's some,
actually, you bring a very interesting point, because one of the things we did recently was very interesting. One client said, "I don't even want anyone to come to the bot in Teams to kickstart the process. I have an applicant tracking system. We push a button there when we are trying to make them employee. Can you have this thing trigger the entire workflow?" So what we did, we have a webhook. So we were able to create that system from there, and the moment they triggered that event in that system, that triggered the entire workflow on our side. So the bot went and got all the information. It then, like you said, went to HRIS system and checked what is there, what is not there, created AD, allocated licenses, created 20 tickets, assigned it to different people, and then tee up the right things at the right time. So users are required most of the time to trigger things, but in certain situations you can have systems triggering it too, which a lot of people find very interesting, by the way.
well, and it's a valuable thing to point out because it's not limited to, well, you've got to start with the bot in order to do this automation. The automation functionality is part of the system, but in and of itself, it's a separate thing. So while the bot can leverage it, there's also other ways to interact with those automations that we're going to build. And the beauty is we're building the automation one time,
That's right. That's right.
right?
That's right.
So it's going to do things in a very consistent way that we've set up. And there, and in some cases, and I know we've had these conversations with a few customers recently, where it could be triggered either way, where, well, if they happen here, it calls down and says, go run this, go do this. And I'm oversimplifying it because I'm not, the mad scientist. But, go down and trigger this set of automations. That's my onboarding. Or it comes from a bot perspective and the bot's going out and checking and saying, well, they're not over here, but I found them in the applicant tracking system. Do we want to promote them? And whether or not you have the ability to do that is all based on company policies. And I think
That's
that's
right.
something you wanted to share with us, just how simple some of these automations are to set up, where you guys have built a platform that isn't going to require a professional services engagement every time I want to tweak something little or create something that you've already have a format set up for.
That's right. Like one of the problems that typically in a lot of these systems is, who's going to do it? Who's going to maintain it? What if I don't, my process doesn't fit the standard, cookie cutter approach that you have? What happens if I want modifications? What I want something? So there to solve this problem, right? What we did was, and I'm going to share my screen again.
Perfect.
We created a studio, right? This is a studio, automation studio, bot studio, whatever you like to call it, where you can design this automation that we are talking about, right? You can create a new flow. You can create for example, a change management flow, or you can create adding a person to a deal flow, and a lot of these you can create as a reusable flow. So that means the flows can be reused over and over again. So that means you can create it, you can save it, and then you can reuse it, you can modify it, you can edit it, and you have all these different flows built in. For example, here, right, Active Directory, access issues, prompt for password, all these different kind of things, laptop battery issue. There are flows and conversations and automation built in here to support what you're trying to do. And it's fairly simple. We actually certify our clients to do this. Once they're certified, they can build it. There's also the APIs, because APIs have to go hand in hand with what happens in the flows, right? So you can build APIs. It's fairly simple. You want to build a new API to a system that I have not built an API to already. It's not a problem. Here you go. You decide how you want to build an API, and you can test it, save it, see if it works. So it's all fairly simple. And this is not, again, I think the sense I'm sure you're getting is, this is not your traditional kind of systems which take a whole lot of time, whole time effort, a lot of planning, a lot of months and months of talking about it before you even see the first version. These are agile. These are these work, they jive with the time that we live in, right? We live in a time where nobody has time to find the automation after 1 year, whether it worked or not. People want it now. They want it here. So this kind of aligns to how a lot of organizations work together. Everyone wants to work in agile methodology. They're applying Scrum through the organizations. This is a product that will help align your automation in that fashion.
So one of the exciting things that we're talking about here, Manish, is what you guys have done. And correct me if I may be oversimplifying this, but you built a library of essentially a place for me as a customer to start. And I'm gonna guess as new things are built over time, that library continues to expand. As you can just add it right in there, right? And so I've got things that I can start with, and I've learned enough about the system that I can go in now and tweak that workflow to fit our particular process as an organization. Because one of the things that you and I have talked about kind of offline is onboarding is not exactly the same at every organization. There are always nuances to that process. And while that may be one of the first things that we set up as part of an implementation engagement and help them work through, as they want to add something else to the system, they have the ability to start with some things that are the common workflows and that probably they're going to adopt the majority of, but they can insert or subtract things to that to make that flow work the way they want. It's all done in a very simple, codeless format. The only time where I think anything to me that really is code is, oh, we got to create a new API connection to something. That's right. Chances are we're gonna pull somebody from Excalibur or Rezolve in to help us do that if we don't have integration staff on our team. But for many organizations, they have integration experts, and they go, oh, okay, I see what it's looking for. Let me go through this. I know what the endpoints are. I've got the secret decoder ring to get the create the accounts and get the usernames and passwords. And okay, now the API is up and running, and we have the ability now to go through and start to create some of the stuff on our own. So not everything ends up being some, as you said, long drawn out project that may require a professional services engagement. Of course, Excalibur and Rezolve are always there at any time to step in and help a client do something and do it quickly. But this is one of the reasons in like some of the recent projects we've worked on together, clients are up and running in an environment in literally days,
Yep.
not
The
weeks, not
only
months.
time, if you're clear about your requirement, it will be days, right? So sometimes it takes a little bit longer when people are not sure about their requirement, or they have to map their own existing, let's say, employee onboarding. If you go to some organizations and you say, show me how you do employee onboarding, they might have to actually first and sit and map that sometime, right? But if the map is there, technology is not a problem.
Yeah, well, but getting them up and running in Resolve and a chatbot available, and hooking them up to the basics of, I need to reset my password, I need to, I want to be able to add to DLs and all that sort of stuff. This stuff is already built,
Yes,
and all we've got to do is connect it up. And once we've got it connected
that's
up,
right.
you're off and running. And
That's
so
right.
we've had some customers that have been able to get off the ground very quickly as
That's
they're
right.
making those decisions of what else are we bringing in. And so it becomes an iterative process where this can be
And
introduced early and then
that's right.
continually. And what's funny is this fits the whole mantra that we've chanted for 30 years now, of continual service improvement.
That's
We
right.
have that opportunity to say, where's our gap? And for many of our clients, they're going, okay, we know we want to automate these simple things. But we have some other ones, as you said, we've got to kind of figure out, well, what else do we want to automate? What else could be automated? And we've seen
That's right.
some
That's right.
pretty spectacular stuff where clients are like, one of the things that we are time consuming and difficult is people want to spin up a new SharePoint site.
That's right.
And we've
That's
got
right.
the mechanisms and the pieces there for them, and they can create SharePoint sites till their heads explode. We don't care.
Virtual machines, right? Setting up
Yeah.
virtual machines, for example, for new employees. So, listen, I want to end this on this note, which I've kind of really come to the conclusion, right? There's a different way of saying continual process improvement, which is automation is a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
While automation should be simple, easy, etc., nobody expects you to do all automation in first month of implementing Rezolve.ai. You probably cannot even do it, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to implement in first 3 months some of the most painful things that you really wanted to get off your plate, and that will give the most mileage for your employees and put a smile on their face and whatnot. And then what is going to happen automatically is you're going to say, what next? Right? You'll want to do something else. And then that will go for next 3 months. And then you'll say, well, I can now maybe feel confident enough to handle more complex processes that I never thought about that I can even automate, right? I'm going to take them out. And then maybe you'll find some orphan processes, I like to call them, which are in each organization, they're somewhere, they're not documented. A person knows about that process. It involves sending an Excel and an email, right? But you can automate all that and bring them to teams and really make it enterprise grade. So automation is a journey, and you need teams like Excalibur and Resolve, but you also need products like Rezolve.ai, which can help you through that journey, and bring it to a channel that you like, which is Microsoft Teams, which employees are very comfortable with. So an integration of this is integration automation story with service desk is very, very important, because typically service desk and automation were kind of, there are some organizations where actually put two different people in charge, one for automation, one for service desk. And I see a future where both service desk and automation will kind of, mesh together much more than they have already been so far.
I'll be excited to see when that day comes, we start to look at this holistically.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Manish, always it's fun to get together and see the crazy stuff you're doing there in the Mad Science Lab at Rezolve.ai, and be able to share it with everybody. Excaliburdata.com, our website. We've got a ton of information for you on Resolve. Reach out to our team, and we'll get connected up with the team at Resolve, and we'll take a look at and help you understand what Resolve can do for your business. Manish, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you all again soon on our next episode. Take care, everyone.